Tuesday, Vice President Kamala Harris held a summit at the White House dealing with maternal health, especially focusing on Black maternal health. Okay, especially focusing on Black maternal health. And comprehensive Black maternal health care was front and center at the first ever White House Maternal Health Day of Action on Tuesday, December 7th, hosted by Vice President Kamala Harris. And I want to talk about this story because what's interesting is I saw very little coverage about this in mainstream media. Okay, very little coverage in cable news. I ain't see any coverage in cable news about this story. And I did a Google search and I saw some stories from CBS News, CNN. I saw articles dealing with this, but I didn't see like stories on MSNBC about this. And this is something that's very important. Now, there's something negative about Vice President Kamala Harris. The Washington Post writes a story about it, and then they interview people on MSNBC who wrote the story. But this right here got very little coverage. Okay, so I just find that very interesting. Now, the first story I saw about this, about the White House Maternal Health Day of Action, the first story I saw about this was from thegrio.com. Okay, thegrio.com, which is African American owned and operated media. And this is one of the reasons why African American owned and operated media is so important. Okay, because this was on the front page, this was on the home page of thegrio.com. We're going to talk about that story. We did not talk about this earlier in the week. Okay, I just saw this article Friday from the Grio. Now, another story I want to get to. Early in the week, I ended up doing about an hour and a half dealing with the Department of Justice that closed the investigation into the murder of Emmett Till. An investigation had been reopened in 2017 because of allegations from the book by Professor Timothy Tyson called The Blood of Emmett Till. And in his book, he said that he did, he said that Carolyn Bryant Dunham had recanted her testimony regarding Emmett Till. He did 2 interviews with her in 2008. And she testified in the trial in 1955 regarding the murder of Emmett Till. Okay. Her husband at the time, Roy Bryant, and his brother-in-law, J.W. Millam, were on trial for killing Emmett Till. They were acquitted by an all-white jury. A few months later, they did an interview in Look magazine and admitted to killing Emmett Till. So I remember back in 2017 when the story came out that there was this new revelation, smoking gun evidence. Author Timothy Tyson said that he did an interview with Carolyn Bryant. She recanted her testimony. Well, the Department of Justice did an extensive, they did an extensive investigation. We talked about this on our show Tuesday, and we're going to recap that conversation because some people didn't hear it. The other thing is this is the 16-page memo, the 16-page report that the Department of Justice released regarding the investigation. I read through it, and I can see why they closed the case, because there's nobody. I mean, the case was the trial was 66 years ago. The statute of limitations for perjury are between 5 to 7 years, depending upon the state. Well, the statute of limitations ran out 59, 58 years ago for perjury. Most of the witnesses have died. So there's no evidence is anybody still alive who was involved in the murder of Emmett Till. So You want somebody to be held accountable, but who do you charge? So we're going to go through, we're going to go back and watch my broadcast from December 7th, Tuesday, December 7th, because we go through step by step and I take you through some of the pages of the Department of Justice investigation, especially pages 4 and 5. They go through, investigate all the allegations. Professor Timothy Tyson, for instance, said he had two recordings, two audio recordings of Carolyn Bryant. And one of the audio recordings, she admitted to, she recanted her testimony. He didn't say specifically what was recanted, but then when pressed for evidence of recantation, he provides one audio recording to Department of Justice. He says he loses the other one. Then when they go through and question, okay, so did you ever have an audio recording of her recanting testimony, etc., his explanation starts shifting. So when you go through, I read through the report. When you go through and read through the report, it follows all the things floating around on social media, and they keep running into dead ends trying to find evidence that they can present in court to a jury and get a conviction beyond a reasonable doubt. So we'll discuss that a little bit as well. And read this article here. CNN had a really good article, a good detailed article on this. I read articles from CNN, Washington Post, New York Times, and NBC News. New York Times is a really good article also. The one from NBC News lacked a lot of specificity, lacked a lot of details. But this one right here from CNN is a good article. Justice Department closes investigation into Emmett Till killing after failing to prove key witness lie, because the burden of proof is on the prosecution. You can't go into court and say the witch lied. That's not evidence. And she maintains that she never recanted her testimony. And when you read the article from the New York Times, her daughter-in-law was present for two of the interviews that Professor Timothy Tyson did in 2008. And her daughter-in-law says Carolyn Bryant Dunham never recanted her testimony. So you got to produce a witness or some evidence to undermine her witness and undermine her saying she never recanted her testimony. The other big problem is that when you go research this, and they lay all this out in the Department of Justice report. I mean, if you look at page 2, okay, but they talk about in 2017, Professor Timothy Tyson unearthed what appeared to be a key piece of evidence in one of the most haunting and grisly murders documented in Jim Crow. In the Jim Crow era, a recantation from the woman at the center of the case who had accused Emmett Till of making sexual advances at her over 60 years ago. All right. Now, the one of the first questions, now back in 2017, when this whole expose, when this whole smoking gun came out, I talked about it here on the show. But I'm sitting there when I was reading through the information in 2017. One of the questions I asked is that he said that he did the interview with Carolyn Bryant Dunham in 2008. He did 2 interviews in 2008, but he didn't say anything about the interviews until 2017, about a month before his book came out, The Blood of Emmett Till. So my question is, if you have this smoking gun evidence, okay, why'd you wait 9 years to say something about it? We'll deal with all this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Stand by, everybody. Back from break in 4 minutes. Okay, back from break in 4 minutes. Stand by. Share this broadcasting on social media platforms. Stand by. Back from break in 3 minutes. Stand by. How's everybody doing? Sharon. Sharon was in class today. How you doing, Sharon? Back from break in 2 minutes. Stand by. Back from break in 1 minute. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, December 12th, 2021, and we are live. Calling numbers 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. All right, and if you missed any of our shows early in the week, you know, I rebroadcast these shows on our social media platforms. So follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. And then wherever you get your audio podcast from, search for The African History Network show. We're on 10 different audio podcast platforms, including our iHeartRadio and Stitcher, Castbox, FM Player, TuneIn, a number of them. Okay, now also on today's show, and we're going to go to clip one here in just a second, Jalen, dealing with Jussie Smollet. Also on today's show, I want to deal with on December 7th, December 11th. December 11th, 1917, you had African-American soldiers who were executed because of the Houston Riot, in Houston, Texas. And this was a riot that broke out because of police brutality. White police officers beating African-Americans. We're going to talk about that as well. Black soldiers executed for the Houston Riot, December 11th, 1917. Now, in the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Be sure to register for the online courses I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. And then also Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We do those on Saturdays and Sundays, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, so I want to jump into this first story here. We got the news on Thursday that former Empire actor Jussie Smollett had been found guilty on 5 counts of disorderly conduct. Okay, 5 counts of disorderly conduct. There's a good article from New York Times on this, and then also Associated Press has a good piece that breaks down the actual charges. Okay, breaks down the actual charges. But if you look at this here from the New York Times. Jussie Smollett found guilty of reporting a fake hate crime. Mr. Smollett was convicted of filing a false police report in 2019, claiming he had been the victim of a racist and homophobic attack. The jury deliberated for more than 9 hours. All right. So now, since the verdict came out on Thursday, December 9th, one of the jurors, Daily Beast, has an article about this. We're going to go to that in just a second. A jury in Chicago found the actor Jussie Smollett guilty on Thursday, December 9th, of falsely reporting to the police that he had been the victim of a racist and homophobic assault in 2019, an attack that investigators concluded was a hoax. Now, you're also going to hear from former Chicago Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson, who led the investigation. And you're going to hear from him what tipped him off that Jussie Smollett was lying as well. Even though Eddie Johnson said he held off on having the police department refer to, he allowed them to refer to Jussie Smollett as a victim as long as they could, but the evidence was overwhelming. Now, with this finding, after more than 9 hours of deliberation, the 12-person jury indicated it had chosen to believe the accounts of two brothers who testified that Jussie Smollett had asked them to mildly injure him as part of a publicity stunt. Now, from the information that came out early on when this took place in 2019, it appeared that this hoax happened because Jussie Smollett felt that he was underpaid on his role on Empire and wanted to try to gain sympathy to get more money for the role he portrayed on Empire. Okay, they ended up writing him out of the script. Now, so Daniel K. Webster, the special prosecutor who handled the case, said afterward that Jussie Smollett only made matters worse by continuing to stand by his account at trial. All right, now I want to go a clip here from NBC Night. Let's go to clip one. Jalen, this deals with what happened in court on Thursday.
As we come on the air in the closely watched Jussie Smollett trial, a Chicago jury tonight finding the former Empire actor guilty on 5 of 6 counts related to lying to police about being the victim of a hate-driven attack in 2019. The verdict coming on the second day of deliberations. Rahima Ellis has the breaking news for us. Rahima?
Lester, Jussie Smollett stood with his arms crossed and he was stoic as the jury read the verdict. As you point out, he was found guilty of 5 of 6 counts, not guilty on a charge of reporting a false aggravated battery to police. But it was nearly 3 years ago that he was facing 6 felony counts of reporting a fake anti-gay racist attack on himself and lying to police about it. On the witness stand, he had always insisted on his innocence, saying there was no hoax, but the prosecution had told jurors that he had orchestrated a hate crime, paying 2 brothers to stage the attack. Smollett now could face up to 3 years in prison. It's expected his lawyers will appeal, but it's not over with that. The city of Chicago is suing him in civil court for $130,000, the cost of the police investigation.
Okay, so the city's suing for $130,000, the cost of the police investigation. He was found guilty on 5 counts of disorderly conduct. Now, once again, he's not public enemy number 1. He didn't kill anybody. Okay. Thank God. And it's highly unlikely, most legal experts say it's highly unlikely that he will actually serve prison time. He'll probably get community service, maybe pay a fine or something like that. Because he does not have a previous criminal record. Now, he was found guilty of 1 count of telling a police officer he was a hate crime victim. He was found guilty on 1 count of telling an officer he was a victim of battery. He was found guilty for telling a police detective he was a hate crime victim. He was found guilty on one count of telling a police detective he was a battery victim, and he was found guilty on one count of telling a police detective again he was the victim of battery. Now, on the sixth count of telling a second detective he was a victim of aggravated battery, he was found not guilty on that account. All right, now I want to go to let's go to clip 2, Jalen. This is former police superintendent Eddie Johnson. Eddie Johnson was on News Nation, the morning show on News Nation, and he talked about this case because he led the investigation for the police department. And he talked about what tipped him off that Jussie Smollet was lying. Let's go to clip 2, Jalen.
It's about halfway past the hour now. All morning, we've been following reaction from the verdict out of Chicago that found Jussie Smollett, the actor, guilty of lying to police about staging a phony hate crime. One of the most outspoken voices about this entire case is former Chicago Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson. He joins us live in studio. Thanks for being with us.
And not a problem. Glad to be here.
Well, I remember how impassioned you were when this case broke. I remember what you said. Can you just bring those who are watching this morning back to the time where you were actually leading the department here in Chicago and you heard about this case?
Well, back in 2019 when this occurred, the city was going through some things and we had challenges in terms of violence. Mm-hmm. And so when this occurred, I have to be honest, when I initially saw the video of him in his apartment with the noose around his neck, I was concerned because I don't think there's many black people in America that would have a noose around their neck and wouldn't immediately take it off. And then the way he was so nonchalant handling it gave me pause for concern, but I would not let the police department make him an offender until the evidence just got to be so overwhelming. I stopped the department from calling him an offender for quite a while. But I have to say, to use a symbol like a noose to promote yourself is just unconscionable to me. And the city of Chicago, we have been making so much progress at that time in terms of violent crime that it just hurt me that somebody, a black person, would use a symbol like that and create a crime when no crime occurred. It was tough. It really was.
What was?
Okay, we'll continue this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation. Calling numbers 313-778, 313-778-7600. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, stand by. Back from break in 4 minutes. Stand by, everybody. All right, stand by. Okay. Back from break in 4 minutes. Stand by. Stuff on Emmett Till. Bathroom break in 2 minutes. Bathroom break in 1 minute. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, December 12th, 2021, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. Also, this is a happy Independence Day for Kenya. The African nation of Kenya won their independence December 12th, 1963 from the British. So happy Independence Day to the African nation of Kenya. All right. So right before the break, I was sharing this interview that former Chicago Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson did regarding Jussie Smollet being found guilty. And this is from News Nation. I guess this is a Chicago show. I checked it out. I wasn't even familiar with News Nation, but I went and read some articles. BlackEnterprise.com has this article here that you can check out. Let me pull this up from Black Enterprise. And this article from Black Enterprise deals with what tip former Chicago police chief says Jussie Smollett could have avoided criminal charges with an apology. Former Chicago police chief says Jussie Smollett could have avoided criminal charges with an apology. So we'll go to that in just a second here. I'll pull that one up also. That's from Black Enterprise. And then there is a juror who was speaking out, who said that, who told why the jury did not believe Jussie Smollett as well. Okay, I want to go back to this interview with former Chicago Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson. Let's go back to this clip, Jalen.
The most obvious, or perhaps the thing that you uncovered that was the most damaging to Smollett's case?
Well, looking back on it, the part about the news, but what really struck us oddly, because at that time I had been a cop 31 years, and so I had been in the detective division working homicides a lot back when I was a judge. What really struck us all was the fact that he got attacked on the coldest night of the year during the polar vortex.
I remember the polar vortex. I was here for a trip.
Yeah.
The planes were frozen. The pipes were frozen.
Insanely cold.
Yeah.
So nobody was out.
There were no people walking their dogs.
Nobody out.
Late at night.
I'll tell you one thing that really tipped us off that there was a problem. If somebody gets jumped like that, and okay, so let me back up a bit. He went to a Subway sandwich 2 a.m. to get a sandwich. Okay, that's fine. He comes back, gets attacked in a supposed hate crime. And during all this scuffle, they poured bleach on him and all of this. When he got up and went into his apartment building, he still had that Subway sandwich with him. That doesn't happen. When people get attacked like that, whatever belongings they have out there, they usually leave it until the police can go back with them because they're afraid. This guy had the sandwich in his hand and never been touched. So that was a real tip and a clue to us that something was amiss. However, I still made it a point to treat him like a victim because you still don't know. You know, and as the days went on and we started recovering that video, it became fairly obvious, you know, and that something was amiss. And then when we, you know, of course, we found out about the Osendero brothers. They had fled the country at the time. They came back to Chicago, and I made it a point to not let the detectives get that out there because we wanted them to come back to Chicago. And when they came back and we arrested them and brought them in and talked to them, when I saw the videos of their statements, then I could no longer protect him, you know. And let me say this. Myself and Mary Emanuel at the time, we were upset about the fact that you stained our city like that, and we put all that manpower into it. But I just want people to understand this too. This isn't the heinous crime of the century. You know, he didn't kill anybody. He didn't blow up a building. And so we would have been more than happy with just an apology at the end of all of that after we uncovered what we did. But for some reason, they just want to keep going down this road that he was actually a victim.
Are you pleased with the verdict?
I am. I do believe justice was served. You know, of course, they're still saying they're going to appeal it, which is his right. But yeah, I think the jurors did their job.
All right. Former superintendent of Chicago Police, Eddie. Thank you so much for
All
watching.
right, pause it right there. Okay, that's from News Nation. Okay, that was Friday. So, because the first time I watched that video today, I bust out laughing. So, read this article here from Black Enterprise. Black Enterprise picked up this article from the Daily Mail. Daily Mail has the clip from News Nation. I went pulling together content for this segment of the show. I went and read additional articles on top of what I read Thursday. Because this stuff came out after Thursday. Okay, so I read the articles from the New York Times and in the publications for our Thursday show. But I went and did additional research to prepare for today's show, okay, because a juror has spoken out. We're going to go to that in just a minute. The New York Post, as well as the Daily Beast, has an article about a juror that has spoken out. But read this article from Black Enterprise. Former Chicago police chief says Jussie Smollet could have avoided criminal charges with an apology. All right, and it goes through and has some statements from Eddie Johnson from the interview that I just shared with you from News Nation. So read this one. This is from December 12th, 2021 from Black Enterprise. They picked up this article mail. All right, now a juror has started speaking also. Okay, which is doesn't help Jussie Smollett at all. So the Daily Beast has this piece, and I'm gonna see if I can pull it up because in Firefox, when I was reading it, all of a sudden they wanted me to start paying for a subscription to the Daily Beast, and I already have too many subscriptions to everything from the New York Times to Washington Post to Atlanta Journal-Constitution to National Geographic to Britannica.com because of the research that I do. But this article here, juror explains what sealed Jussie Smollett's fate for them. Let me pull this up here. Where is this? Jury explains what sealed Jussie Smollett's fate for them. Where are we here? Okay. So the juror is not, we don't know the juror's name, but let's flip over here. Okay. This is from updated December 12th, 2021 also. A juror in the Jussie Smollett trial has explained several reasons why the jury felt there was no way they could acquit Jussie Smollett in his bombshell trial for staging a fake hate crime on himself. Also, it's important to keep in mind, we know that Jussie Smollett did a video. He did like a selfie video talking about the hate crime to put that out there. But then after the investigation started by the police department, he went on Good Morning America, which was seen by millions of people, and kept talking about the hoax. So that put more pressure on the police department to keep investigating. The female juror who declined to be named told the Chicago Sun-Times that the jury of 6 women and 6 men did not have any major disagreements, but took 9 hours to deliberate because they wanted to properly consider all of the evidence. Some doubted that prosecutors had proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt when deliberations began, she said, but those people just wanted more time to look over all of the evidence again. Now, she said it was not evenly split, but there were some doubters. Now, Jussie Smollet, we know, found guilty Thursday evening of 5 of 6 counts of disorderly conduct. He was found not guilty on one related count of telling a detective 2 weeks later that he was the victim of an aggravated battery. Now, the juror said she felt his answers did not have credible reasoning, especially when there was zero evidence to back up his story. Now, Jussie Smollett's creative director, Frank Gatson, Gatson, who initially called police in 2019, was included on a list of witnesses to testify, but was never called. Quote, "We all wanted to hear from Frank," end quote, the juror said. Ultimately, the juror said she found testimony from the brothers, the Nigerian brothers, the Osandaro brothers, that Jussie Smollett hired to attack him to be more convincing. The jurors found the Osandaro brothers' testimony to be more convincing. They gave damning testimony that Jussie Smollett had paid them to carry out the task of roughing him up and slipping a noose around his neck after dousing him in bleach. They also claimed that Jussie Smollett had walked them through a dry run days before. Video messages and money transfers, videos, messages, and money transfers backed up their evidence. All right, so read the rest of this also. This is from the Daily Beast. Juror explains what sealed Jussie Smollett's fate for them. Chicago Sun-Times. They picked up this article from the Chicago Sun-Times. All right, we're coming up here on the break. When we come back, now once again, let me just say this, okay? Ain't like he tried to overthrow the government. Okay, what Jussie did was wrong, but he did it to largely to himself. I mean, he humiliated a lot of African Americans that stood behind him. Because there was evidence. I said, wait a second, man. You tell me 2 dudes are walking around during a polar vortex with a noose and some bleach? That didn't even make sense. He should have hired some writers from Empire to write a better story for him. We'll deal with this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. All right, when we come back, we're going to go to the next story. What do I have up this story to? We can go to the Vice President Kamala Harris story. And then we'll go to, well, let me see. I should go to me first on Roland Martin Unfiltered. I should do that first. We'll do that first. So we'll go to clip, stand by, back from break in 4 minutes. I had to teach a class today, so I'm running behind. Okay, we're going to go to clip 3. Clip 3, we'll do the story. We'll do the story from Roland Martin Unfiltered, dealing with the fight for voting rights. Then we'll go to Vice President Kamala Harris, her White House Maternal Health Day of Action that took place on Tuesday that mainstream media didn't really talk about. Stand by. Okay, we'll talk about Emmett Till as well. Vice President Kamala Harris. That's clip number 4. Okay, that's clip 4. So we'll do that. Okay, stand by, everybody. Justice Department. Clip 9. Back from break in 2 minutes. Okay, who still needs to register for the online course I teach on Saturdays and Sundays? From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. We had a great class today. As soon as you register, you can watch the class because it's archived. And we have a special bundle pack. You can register for both of the online courses that I teach. They're regularly $130 each. You can register for both classes for only $70. We have a special bundle pack. Registers you for both classes for only $70. That's at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can register for from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. And Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa. All right, welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, December 12th, 2021, and we're live. All right, Jalen, we're going to go to clip 3 here in just a second. Let's go to the phone lines. We had a couple people holding on the phone. We're going to switch gears. We're going to go to Roland Martin Unfiltered here in just a minute, Jalen. But let's go let's go to the phone lines. We have, yeah. Oh, okay. Call back. 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the calling number. All right. I want to go to clip number 3, Jalen. So I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday, and we talked about continuing the fight for voting rights. And Roland was on vacation. Professor Ray Baker, one of my frat brothers, was sitting in for Roland, and I was on the panel. This is what happened. Let's go to this clip.
It's time to pivot and bring in our panel. And we're going to go to our guest, our panelist, Michael Imhotep, the host of the African History Network, Kelly Bethea, JD Communication Strategist, and Matt Manning, civil rights attorney, who decided to use the right sleeve of my sweatshirt as his background for his attire. Michael, I want to start with you. We heard a little bit of our conversation that we had around voting rights. Now, and actually can't close with a very important point that I think is something that I want our viewers to be able to consistently take away. Why is it that we feel every 4 years is the, quote, biggest election of our lives? And if every 4 years is the biggest election of our lives, what does that tell us about the system we're existing under?
Well, Ray, look, it's good to have you on, and we got 3 brothers with red, black, and green representing also. So what we have to understand, and I really appreciate the comments from Ashley. We have to understand that politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. Every 4 years, it becomes more dire. One of the things that caused it to become more dire was Shelby County versus Holder, U.S. Supreme Court case of 2013, which gutted Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act. But that was a backlash to the 2012 presidential election, where a record percentage of African Americans registered to vote actually voted, and that scared the hell out of white people. So they attacked us in the courts. And because of Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act being gutted, which dealt with the pre-clearance, when the 2016 presidential election took place, there were 868 fewer polling places because a lot of those states passed new voter ID laws, things like this, and they shut down a lot of polling places. A lot of those polling places they shut down were in communities that had a high percentage of African Americans and Latinos, et cetera. Today, there's 1,700 fewer polling places. So what we understand is the white nationalist GOP party, they're playing the long game. They're playing the game. In 2016, they said when Trump was running, they said this is about the Supreme Court, getting conservative Supreme Court justices and flipping the Supreme Court and overturning Roe versus Wade. And they said this is about the federal bench as well. So what we're looking at here, brother, this is a continuation of the Civil War. This is a continuation of the insurrection of the Civil War. And then after Reconstruction, when those Southern Confederate states took back control of the state legislatures, rewrote their state constitutions, and imposed poll taxes and literacy tests to suppress the African American vote, even in states where we're the majority population, like South Carolina, Mississippi. This is what's taking place right now. So we have to understand that history and fight back and vote all of these traitors out of office.
Now, Kelly, we heard that Michael tell us that the GOP is playing the long game.
Pause right there. Jalen. Hey, man, write down that dude's name. I like that Imhotep guy, man. We need to get him on the show next Sunday. Write down his name, okay? So write down his name. Have his people call my people, man. We need to get him on the show next Sunday. All right, so all right, now read everybody. I want everybody to read this article. This is something that we deal with in the online course that I teach, the second one that I teach, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. Because if you understand what happened after Reconstruction ended, really towards the end of Reconstruction, but especially 1876 with Texas, with their purity for the ballot box and the state constitution, 1890 with the Mississippi State Convention, which became the model, it was known as the Mississippi Plan, and became the model that was used by other southern states to disenfranchise African Americans. They're rewriting their state constitutions to suppress the African American vote. Even in states like Mississippi and South Carolina, where the majority of the population were African Americans. This article right here from history.com, how Jim Crow era laws suppressed the African American vote for generations. What it does, it takes you through after Reconstruction. What takes you from 1870 and the ratification of the 15th Amendment, February 3rd, 1870. 15th Amendment guaranteed the right to vote to African American men, not African American women at that time. We know that women in general at this time could not vote until the 19th Amendment of 1920. And then in the South, it's going to be African American women who basically are not able to vote, generally speaking, without obstacles to the way of voting until the 1965 Voting Rights Act. But it takes you from 1870 with the ratification of the 15th Amendment, and it takes you to 1890, the Mississippi State Convention. At the Mississippi State Convention, a new constitution was adopted that included a literacy test and a poll tax for eligible voters. Under the new literacy requirement, a potential voter had to be able to read any section of the Mississippi State Constitution, or understand any section when read to him, or give a reasonable interpretation of any section. Okay, so it takes you through that, 1890. And then South Carolina, 1895, Louisiana, 1898, Alabama, 1901, Oklahoma in the early 1900s, right around 1907. They're all going to rewrite their state constitutions to suppress the African-American vote. Then they deal with Williams versus Mississippi, 1898 U.S. Supreme Court ruling that upheld poll taxes and literacy tests and disenfranchisement clauses, as well as the grandfather clause. And the grandfather clause comes from Louisiana in their state constitution in 1898 to suppress the African-American vote. And it stated that if your grandfather prior to 1867 could not vote because he was a slave, then you can't vote. Okay, so these were obstacles to keep you from voting, obstacles in the way of the 15th Amendment. In Williams versus Mississippi, the U.S. Supreme Court rules that these obstacles are not unconstitutional. This is why you needed a Voting Rights Act of 65. So then this article goes through and looks at literacy tests. Okay, they look at the poll taxes. They look at the all-white primaries as well, all-white primaries like in Texas. When literacy tests, poll taxes, grandfather clauses, and the many other ways to circumvent the 15th Amendment did not work to suppress Black voter turnout, white legislators in several southern states used all-white primaries to all but eliminate Black voters' presence in the electoral process. In Texas, for example, the state legislature in Texas, just like they passed the voter restriction bill in Texas to suppress African Americans and Latinos, and just like they redrew the district lines in Texas, with 95% of the population growth in Texas since the 2010 census has been African Americans and Latinos, but the Republicans in the state legislature found out a way to carve out 2 new districts that are going to be white districts. Okay, we'll deal with this on the other side of the break. Then I want to get to this maternal health summit that Vice President Kamala Harris organized at the White House on Tuesday, December 7th. And for some reason, it got very, very little coverage. We'll talk about that as well. Now, African-American media, thegrio.com has a big article about it. It's right on the front page. But it got very little coverage. I ain't see about it on MSNBC. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Hi, I'm Hunter Ellis.
Stand by. Okay, read this article here. Let's go back to this. Read this article here, because this is in my class. We go through and break down a lot of this stuff, what happened after the Civil War ended in the fight to suppress the African-American vote and take back control of state legislatures. This is exactly what's happening now, except now Republicans are doing it to not just African-Americans, but Latinos, Asian Americans, etc. This is from history.com, official website of the History Channel, how Jim Crow era laws suppressed the African-American vote for generations. Okay, stand by. Back from break in 3 minutes or 2 minutes. Okay, who still needs to register for the online courses I teach on Saturdays and Sundays? Let me know if you need me to post a link again. You have them on sale. You can register for both for only $70. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968.
Of a man or woman's thoughts, you can control the compass of his or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know.
We have it all on 910 AM Superstation, the 910 AM app.
Stand by, back from break in 1 minute.
.910 AM Superstation, a division of Adele Media. The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 910 AM Superstation or Adele Media.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, December 12th, 2021, and we are live. Okay, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. I want to go back very quickly here to this article we were talking about before the break. And I just shared a segment with you from Roland Martin Unfiltered. I was on Friday, December 10th, I should say, Friday, December 10th. And we talked about a number of different topics. This one here dealt with voting rights and pushing through the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the Freedom to Vote Act as well. Senator Joe Manchin helped write. We were looking at I want to go back to this article here quickly. This is from history.com. And this connects the Jim Crow era and what happened after Reconstruction ended. this connects this directly to the 1965 Voting Rights Act and why the Voting Rights Act was needed. And then it deals with Shelby County versus Holder, U.S. Supreme Court case 2013 that you heard me talk about in the segment from Roland Martin Unfiltered. So this deals with poll taxes, all white primaries. In Texas, for example, the state legislature gave the Democratic Party the authority to set its own rules. The party determined that it was for white voters only. Now, this is before the party realignment that starts in 1928 and completes in the mid to late 60s, in the late 60s. Okay, this is the all white primaries. Well, you have the purity of the ballot box clause in 1876 in Texas. But this is before the party realignment takes place. The party determined that it was for white voters only, excluding African Americans from its elections and effectively making local electoral politics dominated by one party that upheld Jim Crow laws. After a white election official blocked an African American man named Lonnie E. Smith the right to vote in the 1940s Texas Democratic primary, the NAACP's Thurgood Marshall and William H. Hastie challenged the case all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. In 1944, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in the Supreme Court case of Smith versus Allwright that the Texas white primary system was unconstitutional. Okay, so this is Thurgood Marshall. Okay, once again, fighting on behalf of African Americans. In 1944, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in Smith versus Allwright that the Texas white primary system was unconstitutional. Quote, the right to vote in a primary for the nomination of candidates without discrimination by the state is a right secured by the Constitution, end quote, said the court in its 8-1 decision. All right, so then it deals with the Voting Rights Act of 65 and what that did. Then it deals with Shelby County versus Holder, U.S. Supreme Court case, 5-4 ruling, striking down Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, which dealt with the oversight. Okay, in 2013, the U.S. Supreme Court walked back part of the Voting Rights Act when it ruled in a 5-4 vote that constraints placed on certain states and federal review of states' voting procedures were outdated. In the wake of the Shelby County versus Holder decision, several states have enacted laws limiting voter access, including ID requirements, limits on early voting, mail-in voting, and more. Okay, so read this. This is a brief synopsis connecting 1876 and 1890 to 1965 and 2013, how Jim Crow era laws suppressed the African American vote for generations. All right, now, okay, so we'll post this link here. And there was one of the things that I did not get a chance to talk about in the segment, in the clip that I played from Roland Martin Unfiltered, because of time constraints. I did not talk about the need to put pressure on corporations, because a lot of these corporations fund Republicans. And we did not get a chance to deal with that because of time constraints. But there was an article back from NBC News back from July 2014. We talked about all this on the show before. There was a piece that dealt with how you had 150 corporations that signed on to support the Voting Rights Act. Okay. And I'm trying to find that article here. I've got about 100 articles here, and I'm trying to see. I just had them trying to see. Oh, this right here. Okay. So there was a piece from NBC News. More than 150 companies back update to Voting Rights Act. And this is 150 companies back update to the Voting Rights Act. This is from July 14th, 2021. And usually when I'm on Roland Show and even on this show, I talk about why do they have laryngitis now? Because in July, they were very vocal. In May and June, things like this. After Georgia passed their voter restriction bill, and after Texas passed theirs, then corporations were very vocal. And we heard that you had 72 African-American executives led by Ken Chenault, who used to be the CEO of American Express. He's African-American. And Kenneth Frazier, who's the CEO of Merck Pharmaceuticals. Okay. We heard that they put together a list and they were calling for the passing of the Voting Rights Acts and things like this. And they've gone silent, basically. All right. There's a big article from New York Times from what was this, March 31st. March 31st, dealing with that. Black executives call on corporations to fight restrictive voting laws. This one right here. You remember us talking about this from the New York Times. Dozens responded after companies in Georgia said little against state legislation that put strict rules in place. All right. So Ken Chenault, Ken Frazier. This is updated April 3rd, 2021. Dozens of the most prominent Black business leaders in America are banding together to call on companies to fight a wave of restrictive voting bills being advanced by Republicans in at least 43 states. Now it's 49 states. All those bills are not going to pass because Democrats control some of those state legislatures. The campaign appears to be the first time that so many Black powerful executives have organized to directly call out their peers for failing to stand up for racial justice. Okay, so read this. This was good, but my question is, okay, it seems like everybody now has laryngitis and amnesia. Because when we look at this one here from July of 2021, more than 150 companies back update to Voting Rights Act. Major businesses like PepsiCo, Macy's, IKEA, and Nestle USA signed on to a letter supporting the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. Now, we know the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act passed the House of Representatives in August of 2021 by a vote of 219 to 211. All the Republicans voted against the bill. Okay. When it went to the Senate, the only Republican that voted for it was Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. And that was a procedural vote to be able to go to the next step to have a debate on the Senate floor. But she was the only one. She was the only Republican that voted for the bill. More than 150 companies, including PepsiCo, Amazon, and Target, threw their support behind updating the Voting Rights Act in a letter released Wednesday. Now, this was Wednesday back July 14th, that 2021, this article came out. So then the signatories, all U.S. employers, urged Congress to enact the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, legislation that would restore a key provision of the 1965 law that was stripped out by the Supreme Court in 2013, Shelby County versus Holder. The bill would again require jurisdictions with a history of discrimination, like those former Confederate states, like Texas and Georgia and Mississippi, one of the poorest states in the nation. Notice how a lot of these former Confederate states are some of the poorest states in the country, and also has some of the lowest educational achievements in the country. Okay, just notice. I'm not, well, maybe I am calling them dumb, but anyway, just notice the correlation. Okay, the bill would again require jurisdictions with a history of discrimination to get permission from the Department of Justice to make changes to their elections using an updated formula to determine those jurisdictions. Okay, so in all this conversation about voting rights, usually we're not talking about putting pressure on and economic pressure on corporations to, one, put pressure on these Republicans who these corporations have been financing, right, to actually vote for the Voting Rights Act. Because if you go back to 2006, the last time the Voting Rights Act was renewed was 2006. You know what the vote was in the U.S. Senate? The vote was 98-0. In 2006, go look this up. The vote in the U.S. Senate to renew the Voting Rights Act was 98-0. It was unanimous. overwhelming support by Democrats and Republicans. Usually, renewing the Voting Rights Act is not a partisan issue. It's not a debate. But because of a traitor named Donald Trump who's pushing a big lie, now all of a sudden it's a problem. Because of Benedict Donald, because of a traitor who's pushing the big lie, now all of a sudden it's a problem. So in addition to, people say we have to keep pressure on Biden. That's true. But these corporations can put pressure on Joe Manchin, Kristen Sinema, as well as the Republicans. The other thing is that we have to put pressure on Senator Chuck Schumer, because Biden don't control the Senate. Senator Chuck Schumer controls the Senate, because Senator Chuck Schumer is the Senate majority leader. The president does not control the Senate. The Senate is the legislative branch of government. The Senate and the House of Representatives are a co-equal branch to the executive branch of government, and they are a check on the White House. So oftentimes when we talk about pushing the Voting Rights Act through, we don't talk about Senator Chuck Schumer. He controls the Senate. All right. Now, if you go to fec.gov, and anybody that belongs to organizations that involve in this type of activism, go to fec.gov, because this is something else that's missing from a lot of these conversations. At fec.gov, for all of these national elections, U.S. House of Representatives, U.S. Senate, President, these national elections, you know, it tells you who donated to their campaigns and the corporations that donated to their campaigns. So you can use that as leverage to put economic pressure on these corporations, especially that have been financing Republicans who are pushing these voter restriction bills. So we have to understand how to leverage our economics to enforce our political agenda. Now, we see that's something that has to happen in addition to the marching, because a lot of people are talking about keep marching, but then they're talking about leveraging our economics to enforce our politics and putting economic pressure on corporations and putting pressure in how to properly put pressure on elected officials. Because I'm telling you right now, marching has its purpose, but they ain't scared of marching. I'm just being honest. Marching has its purpose. It draws attention to the problem, keeps people engaged, you inform people about the problem. When Major League Baseball took the All-Star game out of Atlanta in retaliation because of the Georgia SB1, I think it was, the voter restriction bill, that got a lot of attention. Now it made some Republicans mad, but if the corporations that are financing these Republicans' campaigns, if they say, if you keep pushing these voter restriction bills, we're not going to give you any more funding, guess what? This stuff will stop overnight. We'll deal with this on the other side of the break, and we'll talk about the Maternal Health Summit that Vice President Kamala Harris had at the White House on Tuesday that focused on Black maternal health. They got very little coverage in mainstream media. I can't figure out why. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, stand by. Okay, back from break in 4 minutes. Okay, African-American business owners, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast. Email us at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. You can also register for the online courses I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. How's everybody doing here? Who we have? Post a message here so I know you're watching. Give us a thumbs up if you like this broadcast, you like this show, like this information. Calling number is 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Okay. So as soon as you register, you can watch the class from to this weekend. and you can join us in class coming Saturday and Sunday. Stand by. Back from break in 2 minutes. Okay. And then we have the bundle pack where you can register for both classes for only $70, regularly $130 each. Stand by.
The Superstation, Detroit's only African-American talk radio.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, December 12th, 2021, and we are live. Okay, visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. If you like this type of information, you can register for the online courses I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. Saturdays, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. This is a 10-week online course. We get deep into the history, and we go through history chronologically and see what happened to us after the Civil War ended. And we deal with some events leading up to the Civil War, starting in 1803 with the Louisiana Purchase. So we do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch them anytime. As soon as you register, you can watch the class that we did on Saturday, December 11th, and some of the previous classes. And then on Sundays, I teach from the ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. So we deal with thousands of years of history, what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. And in both classes, I do a PowerPoint presentation. We have book references, articles, video clips, etc. So we have a special bundle pack right now. You can register for both classes for only $70. They're normally $130 each. And you'll still have access to the class even after the class is over with. So next year, if you want to go through and watch the entire class all over again, you'll be able to do that. Okay. So we're going to post a link right here on the thread of the broadcast, and also visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. As soon as you register, you can start watching the content. Okay. So right before the break, we were talking about the fight for voting rights continues. We'll probably talk about this some more later on in the week. We dealt with this on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday, when I was on Friday, December 10th. And the guest that was on was earlier in that segment that I didn't have time to play here, but her name is Ashley Woodard Henderson. She's from Movement for Black Lives, Ashley Woodard Henderson. So if you go to Roland Martin on Facebook or YouTube, or download the Black Star Media app to your smartphone, to your device, etc., you can watch the broadcast from Friday, December 10th. You can watch the full broadcast. Okay, I want to get to this next story here. I saw very little news coverage about this summit that took place at the White House, and I saw very little coverage in mainstream media. I didn't see a lot of, I really didn't see any articles on my timeline about it. I didn't see articles on Washington Post, on their website, on the New York Times website. I saw an article from thegriot.com about it. It was right on the homepage of the Griot's website. And the Griot is African-American owned and operated media, owned by Byron Allen. But Vice President Kamala Harris spotlights Black maternal health disparities with White House summit. And I just found it strange that we didn't see more coverage of this in mainstream media. So this took place Tuesday, December 7th. Comprehensive Black maternal health care was front and center at the first ever White House Maternal Health Day, White House Maternal Health Day of Action on Tuesday, hosted by Vice President Kamala Harris, featuring policy solutions developed over nearly a decade in collaboration with the Congressional Black Maternal Health Caucus, and a deep bench of policymakers, researchers, and leaders on the front lines of the crisis. Quote, when we know that today Black women are 3 times as likely to die from pregnancy-related complications, we should do something about it, said Vice President Kamala Harris. When women who live in rural America, which has many maternal care deserts, meaning there are no maternal care facilities, are about 60% more likely to die from pregnancy-related complications, we need to do something about it. Now, Vice President Kamala Harris made clear that the White House is taking unprecedented action when she highlighted $3 billion in the new maternal health investments. When she highlighted $3 billion in new maternal health investments proposed in the yet to pass Build Back Better Act. Now, it's passed the House of Representatives, just so people understand. No Republicans voted for it. Okay. It passed the House by a vote of 220 to 213. 220 to 213. The one Democrat that voted against the bill said he was for the bill, but didn't think it went far enough. No Republicans voted for the bill. In case you're confused, trying to figure out which Republican supported none of them. Okay. It's in the Senate. Now, 90% of the bill has already been approved pre-conference with Democrats in the Senate. So it's now in the Senate. It's expected, it's going to pass the Senate as well. So $3 billion in new maternal health investments proposed in the yet to pass Build Back Better Act that has passed the House, in addition to new commitments to support safe pregnancies and childbirth and reduce complications and mortality in the year following birth. We're going to clip 4, Jalen, from Vice President Kamala Harris from CBS News in just a second. Okay, now some of the most interesting interventions to help address the more than 50% of maternal deaths, that happen after birth include the launch of a new Department of Health and Human Services report on a Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, initiative to designate birthing-friendly hospitals. The Biden-Harris administration has also pledged to invest in remote care monitors for rural communities. 25% of African Americans live in rural America. Education programs for maternal health providers and innovative care models for the postpartum period. Now, I would expect to hear all types of stories in the news and CNN, MSNBC, all this about this, and because you see the attention that the abortion law in Texas gets and the Supreme Court ruling from Texas this past week. You see all the attention that gets, and that's understandable. But I would think something like this would get attention, but maybe that's just me. Let's go to clip 4, Jalen.
Vice President Kamala Harris is leading the White House's first Maternal Day of Action. Harris spoke at a summit Tuesday about the importance of improving maternal health in the U.S.
This challenge is urgent, and it is important, and it will take all of us. And to put it simply, here's how I feel about this. In the United States of America, in the 21st century, being pregnant and giving birth should not carry such great risk.
According to research, the U.S. has the highest maternal death rate out of all developed countries. On Tuesday, the vice president urged the Senate to pass the climate and social spending bill, which includes funds to address the issue. For more, I want to bring in Rohini Kosolu. She's an advisor to Vice President Kamala Harris. Rohini, welcome. Thanks very much for joining us. How does the White House believe the pandemic has impacted maternal health?
Thanks for having me, Elaine. Well, today was a historic day at the White House. It was our first ever Maternal Health Day of Action. The Vice President convened cabinet secretaries, members of Congress, advocates from around the country to talk about the importance of what we need to do to ramp up efforts to solve the maternal health crisis in this country. As we discussed and you noted, the United States has some of the worst outcomes of developed nations in this area. Within those numbers of women dying during childbirth, Black women and Native American women are dying at a disproportional rate. And so we must do everything we can. As the Vice President said today, this is a serious crisis that deserves immediate action. And so what was important today was that we talked about the passage of the Build Back Better Act, which would invest $3 billion into making sure that women are covered under the Medicaid program, that they are covered for up to a year postpartum. That means we're talking about postpartum checkups, we're talking about vaccinations, and we're talking about pelvic exams. We're talking about also the importance around making sure that today, as we announced, the Department of Health and Human Services is going to initiate a program to make sure hospitals are covering designations for maternal health quality standards. So these are just a number of things. And as we've heard from women around the country today, one of the common themes that they talked about was that they weren't heard during their pregnancy. And so this is an important issue that, again, we need to do everything we can to take steps moving this problem forward.
And
all right, pause it right there.
States to specifically
Pause it right there, Jalen. Okay, everybody check out that clip from CBS News. We're coming up on a break. Name of that clip is Vice President Kamala Harris announces plan to improve maternal health in U.S. That's from CBS News, December 7th, 2021. That's on their YouTube channel. Also read this piece from thegrio.com, African-American owned media. Vice President Kamala Harris spotlights Black maternal health disparities with White House summit. So I didn't see this on my timeline and things like this. Now, we posted it on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network. Okay. If it was something negative, because when they have negative stories, they write big articles in Washington Post. Then on MSNBC, they interview the person who wrote the article for the Washington Post, and they do a 15-minute segment, stuff like this. Very little coverage on this. I'm trying to figure out. Still can't figure out why. Maybe because I went to public schools. I don't know. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. We'll talk about the Department of Justice officially closing the investigation to the murder of Emmett Till because they cannot find enough evidence to prove the last living witness, basically the main witness, lied. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Back from break in 4 minutes. Okay, stand by. All right, if you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network, $, the AHN show through Cash App, $, the AHN show through Cash App. Also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. Back from break in 4 minutes. How's everybody doing? Okay, stand by, everybody. Back from break in 3 minutes. (313-778-7600) is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Stand by. Bathroom break in 1 minute. Welcome back to the African History Network show. All right, calling numbers 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Okay, if you'd like this type of information, also you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. We're here 6 days a week. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting. This is our official Cash App account, $ the AHN show through Cash App. When you go to it, it shows my, it says Michael and shows my picture there. These other ones are fake African History Network Cash App accounts. Then also we have the information at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Okay, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. Now, I want to go to, this is a story we talked about earlier in the week. On Tuesday, December 7th, I did about an hour and a half breaking down this case. We don't have that type of time tonight, but go back and watch the show from December 7th. But the Department of Justice, and we're going to go to clip 5 here in just a second, Jalen. The Department of Justice on Tuesday, December 7th, closed the investigation that they opened in 2017 into the murder of Emmett Till. Now, this dates back to August 28th, 1955, when Emmett Till was murdered, when he was lynched. The department said it could not corroborate a book's claim that a central witness had recanted her statements about Emmett Till, an African-American killed by 2 white men in 1955. Okay, they could not corroborate evidence that they could present in a court of law and get a conviction beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, I read a number of articles on this. The one from this one here from the New York Times is a really good one. Also, I'm going to show you one from CNN. We're going to look very briefly at the DOJ report. Everybody should read this Department of Justice report because this separates fact from fiction and conspiracy theories and all types of nonsense that's floating around. And it shows you, like, you get some type of idea of evidence that you need to have to present in court to convict somebody. Okay, so the Justice Department announced Monday that it had closed the investigation. They held a press conference on, I think the press conference was Tuesday, December 7th. The Justice Department announced on Monday that it had closed an investigation into the abduction and murder of Emmett Till, the African-American teenager whose gruesome killing by 2 white men more than 6 decades ago in Mississippi helped begin the civil rights movement. And we know Rosa Parks talked about how she attended a meeting about Emmett Till at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church on November 27th, 1955. And Dr. T.R.M. Howard was speaking there. And that was 4 days before she refused to give up her seat on that Cleveland Avenue bus, December 1st, 1955. And she said she was thinking about Emmett Till when she was on the bus, and when she refused to give up her seat, she was thinking about Emmett Till. Now, in a news release dated December 6th, federal officials said there was not enough evidence to pursue charges in the case and keep in mind the trial was 66 years ago, which was reopened after a historian claimed in a book that Carolyn Bryant Dunham, she remarried Carolyn Bryant Dunham, the central witness whose account of an encounter with Emmett Till led to his death, had recanted the most salacious portions of her story, that he grabbed her and made sexually suggestive remarks. Okay. Now the assertion or allegation that she recanted her testimony is suspicious also. We're going to get to why. Citing the statute of limitations, and the statute of limitations are between 5 to 7 years, depending upon the state. Citing the statute of limitations and Carolyn Bryant Dunham's denial that she had ever changed her story, the Justice Department said it could not move forward with prosecuting her for perjury. Now, they couldn't prosecute for perjury in her testimony in 1955, but the investigation that they did that opened in 2017, if they could prove that she made false statements to investigators, federal investigators, then that's perjury as well. Now, during a moment of the trial in which jurors were not present, Carolyn Bryant Dunham claimed that the teenager had made sexually vulgar comments toward her and made physical contact. But in a book published in 2017 called The Blood of Emmett Till by author Professor Timothy B. Tyson, the author wrote that Ms. Dunham had recanted her testimony in a 2008 interview, saying that the earlier stories she told were not true. Yet Carolyn Bryant Dunham, when interviewed by the interviewers, by the investigators, Carolyn Bryant Dunham maintained she never recanted her testimony. And when the Department of Justice asked Timothy Tyson for evidence that she recanted her testimony, he could not provide evidence that she actually recanted her testimony. Nothing that boy did could ever justify what happened to him. We know that. That's not evidence. Timothy Tyson, a researcher and historian at Duke University, quoted Carolyn Bryant Dunham as saying in the book. Now, Mr. Tyson's claim generated outrage and renewed calls for the case to be reopened. Kristen Clark, who leads the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division, delivered the news to the family in person that the case was formally closed. Now, when we come back from the break, we're going to go to let you hear a little bit of the press conference, and we're going to look quickly here at the Department of Justice memo. Okay. Let me see here. Okay, so they give some background information on what happened, and okay, and one of the problems is trying to find evidence that you can present in court to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Carolyn Bryant Dunham lied to investigators. Proving that she lied in 1955, the statute of limitations have ran out on that. Now, the other thing that's important to note is that Holly Bryant, who is Carolyn Bryant's daughter-in-law, Marsha Holly Bryant, in 2018, Miss Dunham's daughter-in-law, Marsha Holly Bryant, who was present for the interviews that author Timothy Tyson said Dunham Dunham recanted her testimony. She said that Dunham never recanted her testimony. So her daughter-in-law is saying, I was present for both interviews. She never recanted her testimony. Carolyn Bryant is saying she never recanted her testimony. When the Department of Justice asked for evidence, okay, so show us the evidence where she recanted her testimony. The evidence is not produced. Reached by phone on Monday, Ms. Holly Bryant said she had no comment. Other relatives of Carolyn Bryant Dunham did not respond to several requests for comment. Before the current investigation, federal officials last revisited the case in 2004. They closed it 2 years later after prosecutors determined that the statute of limitations kept them from pursuing additional federal charges. As part of that inquiry, Emmett Till's body was exhumed. Okay, Jaden. Okay, so we got time before the break. Let's go to clip number 5. This is from the Department of Justice, the press conference they held explaining why they could not find evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt in court, to and be able to that the witness lied, and to be able to bring new charges. Let's go to clip number 5.
We were called to this meeting to receive information about the findings of the FBI in its last leg of the investigation into the lynching, the 1955 lynching of Emmett Till. And we have been working with the government for the last 4 years. Reverend Parker and Ms. Edwards have been working with the FBI and receiving information. Reverend Parker, of course, is a cooperating witness as well as a victim and a survivor of that night of terror in 1955. We have finally received findings from the FBI related to the investigation that was launched with the publication of The Blood of Emmett Till by Timothy Tyson in February 2017, which, as you know, included what was reported to be a recantation by Carolyn Bryant, who accused Emmett Till of all kinds of atrocities that ultimately led to his lynching. I'm just going to read one portion of this letter that was issued to Reverend Parker related to this investigation. In 2017, Professor Timothy Tyson alleged that Carolyn Bryant, now Carolyn Donham, the wife of one of the confessed murderers and a witness to events leading up to the murder, had, in an interview with him, recanted previous accounts she had given of the circumstances surrounding Mr. Till's murder. In response, the department and the FBI examined whether Carolyn Bryant had recanted, and if so, whether she had information that would allow prosecution of any living person, including Carolyn Bryant herself. Following the exhaustive multi-year investigation, which included thoroughly reviewing that new evidence and examining the evidence gathered from an earlier investigation, we regret to inform you that, for the reasons explained more fully below, we have not uncovered sufficient evidence to support a federal prosecution. The department re-examined Mr. Till's murder pursuant to the acts named in his honor, the Emmett Till Unsolved Civil Rights Crime Act, the Emmett Till Act, and its more recent reauthorization. The current re-examination of Mr. Till's murder was conducted by FBI special agents, assistant U.S. attorneys, and the local Mississippi District Attorney's Office, and experienced cold case attorneys in the Civil Rights Division. So you can imagine that this was quite a blow to the family, and they'll talk more about that.
All right, we're coming up here on the break. When we come back, so that's from the press conference from the Department of Justice on Tuesday, December 7th. Now, when we come back, also, we're going to look at the 16-page memo from the Department of Justice that you heard them talk about in the clip from the press conference. We're going to focus in on pages 4 and 5, and then we're going to deal with the December 11th, 1917 Black soldiers executed for the Houston Riot. The Houston Riot. This is during World War I. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, stand by. How's everybody doing? All right, stand by, everybody. Back from break in 4 minutes. Okay, how's everybody doing? Let's see who we have here. Okay, give us a thumbs up if you like this type of information, you like this broadcast. Okay, back from break in 2 minutes. Okay, African-American business owners, post the name of your business here in the thread of the broadcast. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Current promotion, buy 1 month, get 2 months free. Okay, back from break in 1 minute. Back from break in 1 minute. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 a.m. the Superstation of Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, December 12th, 2021. If you want me to do a presentation for your group or organization, Kwanzaa's coming up, Dr. King Day, African American History Month, Women's History Month in March, Juneteenth in 2022. If you want me to do a presentation for your group or organization, your church, etc., email me at AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We can set that up. Also, the online courses that I teach, we can modify those and I can teach them for your group or organization, what have you. We can teach them in person or we can teach them virtually. Okay. Now, if you want to register for the classes that I teach on Saturdays and Sundays, also, we had a great class this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. On Saturdays, I teach from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. And on Sundays, it's Ancient Kemet, one of the original names for Egypt, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. All right. So I do a PowerPoint presentation. We have book references, articles, video clips. We do the sessions live. All of the sessions are archived and recorded. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement, the Black Power is on sale right now, $50, regularly $130. Understanding transatlantic slave trade is on sale, $60, regularly $130. As soon as you register, you can watch the classes we did this weekend, but we have a bundle pack where you register for both classes for only $70. That's a $260 value for only $70. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can register there. As soon as you register, you can start watching the content. Okay, I want to go back to the story right before the break. We're going to go back to the press conference, Jalen. Now, this is dealing with Emmett Till and the Department of Justice announcing, they did an announcement on Monday, December 6th, and they held a press conference Tuesday, December 7th, that they were closing the investigation that was opened in 2017 into the murder of Emmett Till based upon allegations in the book in 2017 from author Timothy Tyson called The Blood of Emmett Till. All right. Now, there was an article that came out December 10th. And I saw this article from my friend, Dr. Ray Winbush, who we've had here on the show before, and I read it. And this article here casts more doubt on the revelations from author Timothy Tyson. Okay. And because I was speculative of his revelations in 2017, and other people were as well. The name of this article is Carolyn Bryant Lied About Emmett Till. Did author Timothy Tyson lie too? TOO. Carolyn Bryant lied about Emmett Till. Did author Timothy Tyson lie too? TOO. And this is from which publication is this here? This is from MississippiCIR.org, MississippiCIR.org, Mississippi Center for Investigative Reporting by Jerry Mitchell, December 10th, 2021. So read this article, and it goes through and looks at the claims of Timothy Tyson as well and casts more doubt on that also. Let's go back to this. Let's go back to clip 5 from the press conference, Jalen.
we now know that the case is closed, formally closed. It was opened in 2007. It was never actually closed, even after the investigation then led to no indictments. So it was easy to reopen once this new evidence came to light. It is now officially closed without any recommendations for indictments, without any indication that there was any verifiable evidence that Carolyn Bryant actually recanted, despite what is published in the Timothy Tyson book. And there was no credible evidence that Timothy Tyson could provide that would have led to any further action in this case against Carolyn Bryant.
Okay, so check that out. That's from ABC News. That's from ABC News. That should be December 7th, 2021. That's on ABC News, on their YouTube channel, ABC News. That's called DOJ Officially Closes Emmett Till Investigation. All right, so you can watch that clip in its entirety. Now, I want to go quickly here to the Department of Justice report and watch my broadcast that I did December 7th, because we spent an hour and a half going through this step by step pretty much. If we look quickly here at Department of Justice report, and I think this is on page 2 of the report, in early 2017, new information emerged that suggested that Carolyn Bryant Dunham had recanted her claims that Emmett Till assaulted and propositioned her in the store. Timothy Tyson, a university professor who had written a book, The Blood of Emmett Till, alleged during a book promotion tour that Carolyn Bryant Dunham, during an interview with him nearly a decade earlier, because he interviewed her in 2008, but he waited to 2017, around the time that his book came out, to say something about it. He alleged that she recanted the account that she had provided under oath in proceedings related to Emmett Till's murder trial. Okay. Now, once Tyson's assertion about the recantation was made public, members of Emmett Till's family, state and federal public officials, advocacy groups, journalists, and other interested parties requested an investigation into, and if possible, prosecution of Carolyn Bryant Dunham and maybe anybody else who's still alive. All the other witnesses died except one who was there with Emmett Till that day at the grocery store, but that witness was outside while Emmett Till was inside and didn't hear the interaction between Emmett Till and Carolyn Bryant Dunham. Okay, so if we go quickly here to, we're running out of time, but if we go quickly here to page 4, the section D, Timothy Tyson's claim that Carolyn Bryant Dunham recanted her testimony. All right. And this is at the Department of Justice website. Justice.gov is the U.S. Department of Justice website. Okay. And just search for Emmett Till, and you can read this full 16-page report. I've gone through, read the whole report. Section D, no additional investigative steps were taken by the federal or state government in the next decade. Then, shortly before the publication of his book, The Blood of Emmett Till, Timothy Tyson revealed to several media outlets that Carolyn Bryant Dunham had, during an interview with him nearly a decade earlier, recanted the account that she had provided under oath, etc. Tyson's account suggested that Carolyn Bryant Dunham lied in court and lied during the FBI's 2004 investigation. However, they could not find any evidence, and they were not provided any evidence, including by author Timothy Tyson, that they could prove in court beyond a reasonable doubt that she had lied, and she has maintained that she has not recanted her testimony. Those watching on Facebook and YouTube, keep watching. We're out of time here on 910 AM Superstation WFDF. We'll be back tomorrow. Right now, it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next time. Peace. All right, stand by. Okay, we're going to keep going for a couple more minutes here, then I have to get out of here. But read this full report. Okay, read this full report. Specifically, Timothy Tyson stated that her representation that Emmett Till had made physical advances toward her in the store was not true. In the book, The Blood of Emmett Till, in the book, which was published the following month, Tyson wrote that Carolyn Bryant Dunham said, "I have thought about everything about Emmett Till, the killing and the trial, telling who did what to who, and then murmured, quote, 'They're all dead now anyway,' end quote." He wrote that while, quote, "trying hard to distinguish fact from remembrance," unquote. Carolyn Bryant Dunham revealed a story different from what he thought he knew about the incident, from what Timothy Tyson thought he knew about the incident. Specifically, he represented that Carolyn Bryant Dunham handed him a transcript of her sworn testimony and claimed, quote, "That part's not true," end quote. What part's not true? He then wrote, see, when you go through, read this 16-page report, they went and investigated all these allegations, and they keep running in the dead ends, keep coming up empty-handed. If that report was not true, I asked, what did happen the evening decades earlier? Timothy Tyson said, "I want to tell you." Well, he said that Carolyn Bryant said, "I want to tell you. Honestly, I don't remember. It was 50 years ago. You tell these stories for so long. They seem true, but that part is not true." What part's not true? According to Timothy Tyson, she went on to say, "Nothing that boy did could ever justify whatever happened to him," end quote. We know that. That's not evidence either. Now, in the book, Tyson identified a September 8th interview with Carolyn Bryant Dunham and, quote, accompanying handwritten notes by the author as his sources for these and other statements of Carolyn Bryant's included throughout his book. Tyson also relied upon a draft memoir, handwritten but not published. He also, it was a draft memoir of Carolyn Bryant's, handwritten but not published. Okay, so then they go through and look at all these claims. Tyson's page 5 of the Department of Justice memo. Tyson's claim of Carolyn Bryant's recantation understandably caused outrage in Mississippi and around the country, and it was widely reported by numerous news outlets in both print and television media, because I remember it was everywhere. We talked about it here on this show, and I had questions because I'm looking at what he claims was a recantation. I'm saying, okay, now that's all there is to it. What's it? Because I remember reading, and it said, okay, that part's not true, and nothing that boy did justify what happened to him. And I'm like, okay, so where's the recantation of testimony? When you say that part's not true, what part's not true? So I had questions in 2017. One of them was, if you interviewed her 9 years prior and she made this smoking gun revelation, why didn't you say something in 2008 when you interviewed her? Now, interested parties questioned whether, having recanted her prior statement, could Carolyn Bryant Dunham be punished for her previous lies if confirmed. A recantation of the accounts of what happened inside the store would raise questions, etc. The department's previous conclusion about what role, if any, I think Carolyn Bryant Dunham had in Emmett Till's abduction and murder, and whether any other person previously identified was complicit in the underlying crimes. And of course, a recantation would directly contradict both her testimony at the state proceedings in 1955 and the statements she provided to the FBI during the previous investigation. The current investigation was designed to identify evidence corroborating Timothy Tyson's claim that Carolyn Bryant Dunham recanted her 1955 testimony, and whether there was additional evidence identifying, one, previously unknown information of Carolyn Bryant Dunham having been complicit in Emmett Till's abduction and murder, two, any previously unknown living subject, and 3, a basis to support any other federal or state charges. In re-examining these issues, the FBI interviewed Carolyn Bryant Dunham, Timothy Tyson, and persons close to or associated with them. In addition, the government also re-interviewed, now this was the person who was with Emmett Till that day. I think it was like his cousin or somebody. This is like the only living survivor. He was with Emmett Till that day at the grocery store, but he was outside the grocery store. The last surviving member of the group of young men who accompanied Emmett Till to Carolyn Bryant Dunham's grocery store that she owned with her husband, Roy Bryant, grocery and meat market, and who was present. This person was present when Emmett Till was abducted from his relative's home. The FBI also obtained and reviewed other relevant documents, conducted forensic computer analysis, and consulted with case agents familiar with the earlier investigation, consulted with case agents familiar with the earlier investigation, the investigation from 2004 that closed in about 2006. Okay. There was an early investigation into his murder as well. The FBI quickly identified a significant obstacle in its investigation. So this is page 5. This is a critical point here. This is page 5. Tyson. So once again, people like really need to do research on something called statute of limitations. Statute of limitations regarding perjury are 5 to 7 years, depending upon the state. This trial was 66 years ago in 1955. And then J.W. Millam and Roy Bryant were the only 2 people charged in the murder of Emmett Till. They were acquitted by an all-white jury. Now, they did it because they admitted a few months later in Look magazine that they killed Emmett Till. They would pay $4,000, but they couldn't be tried again because of double jeopardy laws. They're dead now also. So people should really do some research before you start commenting. Now, Tyson conducted 2 separate interviews. Author Professor Timothy Tyson conducted 2 separate interviews with Carolyn Bryant Dunham and recorded and transcribed both of the interviews. Okay, this is what he said. He recorded and transcribed both of the interviews. However, the key statements that Carolyn Bryant Dunham reportedly made to him recanting her previous testimony were neither recorded nor transcribed. And then when you go and read the piece from the New York Times and see one of the problems is that his explanation of whether he had a recorded recantation or didn't keeps changing. In the other article that I showed from Mississippi Center of Investigation, I think it was. This is something else that they're saying also, Mississippi Center for Investigative Reporting. This is something else that they're saying as well. But if we look at this here from the New York Times, he said that there's a part in here where he says that she started spilling the beans. Oh, right here. Carolyn started spilling the beans before I got the recorder going. I documented her words carefully, Tyson said in the email on Monday, adding, my reporting is rock solid. Okay, so when investigators were questioning Timothy Tyson, he kept changing whether or not he had a recording of her recanting her testimony or did not have a recording of her recanting the testimony. When you read these statements here, he's saying he started recording after she started spilling the beans. So I went and researched all of this. And if you try to go into court with this, her defense attorney is going to rip you to shreds and rip your witnesses to shreds. Because if they call Timothy Tyson as a witness for the prosecution, he's going to get destroyed on the witness stand by Carolyn Bryan Dunham's defense attorney. Tyson conducted 2 separate interviews with Carolyn Bryan Dunham and recorded and transcribed both. However, the key statements that were in headlines in 2017, the key statements that she reportedly made to him recanting her previous testimony were neither recorded nor transcribed. The FBI learned that Tyson had lost one of the recordings, the one during which Carolyn Bryan Dunham reportedly recanted her earlier statements and sworn testimony. But he told the New York Times that he started recording after she spilled the beans. And then he took good notes. He didn't tell the New York Times he recorded her recanting her testimony. And what testimony did she recant? The FBI learned that Tyson had lost one of the recordings. So you don't like back up your recording. He was writing a book. He did the interview in 2008. So you don't like back up your recordings and your research like on external hard drives. I have 5 external hard drives. Okay. So you don't like, you're writing a book and you don't back up your interviews. I've lost stuff, but it's because of computer crash or something. But if I was writing a book, all that stuff's going to be backed up. I have 5 external hard drives. The one during which Carolyn Bryan Dunham reportedly recanted her earlier statements and sworn testimony. That's the recording he said he lost, the smoking gun. I'm still trying to figure out why in 2008 you didn't go to the authorities with the smoking gun then. Now, moreover, Timothy Tyson gave inconsistent explanations. See, this is important here because when you go into court with what had happened was, you're going to lose. Moreover, Timothy Tyson gave inconsistent explanations of whether there had ever been a recording of the admission, and if not, why none had been made. Timothy Tyson also gave differing accounts as to when Carolyn Bryan Dunham made the recantation. And Tyson told investigators that although Carolyn Bryan Dunham did not specifically identify any part of her testimony as untrue, he understood from the context of their conversation that she was referring to her allegation that Emmett Till had physically accosted her in the store, and that this connection was recorded in his written notes, not an audio recording, recorded in his written notes. Tyson's notes, however, do not include any such connection. These facts would preclude the government from proving beyond a reasonable doubt that Carolyn Bryan Dunham recanted her previous testimony when speaking with Professor Timothy Tyson, and therefore that she lied to the FBI in either 2004 during that investigation or the 2017 investigation when she denied having lied in the first place. And she maintains she never recanted her testimony. Read the rest of this. Pages 4 and 5 are like the crucial portions. But read the rest of this here. This is at justice.gov, which is the Department of Justice official website. All these memos and things like this, they make available. You can go here and read this and do research. Civil Rights Division, Monday, December 6th. Notice to close file. Now, if anybody thinks she should be charged with murder or what have you, please provide the evidence that can prove beyond a reasonable doubt in court that she should be tried, whatever it is? And have you gone to the Department of Justice with that information, with that evidence? Okay, so read this here. Because as I said on my show Tuesday, quoting Denzel Washington from Training Day, when he was talking to Ethan Hawke, it's not what you believe, is what you can prove. It's not what you believe, is what you can prove. Now, her allegations, even in the Department of Justice report, it said that her allegations were suspect. They even say that in the report. But having evidence to actually prove that she's lying is a higher burden, and the burden of proof is on the prosecution. They even say in the report, there are questions about her allegations of what Emmett Till did and things like this. But actually having proof to prove beyond a reasonable doubt in court is something different. And the burden of proof is on the prosecution. But read this. So after you read the 16-page Department of Justice report, because I went through and read it. So when I come on here, I know what the hell I'm talking about. I'm not dealing with, I'm a researcher. I don't deal with opinions and beliefs. I deal with facts and evidence. Read this one also here from Michigan. I'm not Michigan, Mississippi. Mississippi Center for Investigative Reporting. Carolyn Bryant lied about Emmett Till. Did author Timothy Tyson lie too? Very, very good article that goes through and really breaks this stuff down and looks at the claims that he was making, the claims that Timothy Tyson made in 2017, that she recanted her testimony, all this stuff. Okay, so check that out also. All right, this story here about the Houston Riot of 1917. We'll have to get to that on Monday show. We're totally out of time here. Okay. All right. So if the evidence is provided, she can be tried. The family will be, what evidence? It has to be evidence that she lied during the investigation that started in 2017. The statute of limitations for perjury or lying to federal investigators, basically it's like 5 to 7 years, and perjury is 5 to 7 years. The trial was in 1966. So if she lied on the witness stand, you can't charge her with lying on the witness stand. We have to understand like law and statute of limitations. If she made false statements to investigators in the 2017 investigation that ended December 6, 2021, if you have evidence that she made false statements that can be proven in court beyond a reasonable doubt, I hope you can contact the Department of Justice. I really hope you don't wait like 9 years after you write a book. I hope you contact the Department of Justice if you have evidence to prove in court beyond a reasonable doubt that she made false statements to the federal investigators. First, you have to investigate what she told the federal investigators before you can say she made false statements. It's not what you believe, is what you can prove. All right. So read through all this because I can look at comments and tell people I haven't read anything. They have to take the evidence before grand jury. It has to be solid evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she gave false statements. All right. So it helps to do research. All right, we're here Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to midnight Eastern Standard Time. The African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation Future Radio. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can listen to our podcast, our audio podcast. All of my DVD lectures and digital downloads are at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can register for the online courses that I teach also on Saturdays and Sundays. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. And Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. These are 10-week online courses, and we do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch them anytime. You can use these with your children also. I would say the content is PG-13. Okay, it's not really vulgar, and I don't do a lot of cursing, things like this. It's interactive, and it's very visual as well. Okay, so we'll post a link here. You can register for that. As soon as you register, you start watching the content. You can join us in class this coming weekend. And if you'd like this type of information, you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show. And this is our official Cash App account, $ the AHN Show. When you go to it, it says Michael and shows my picture there. All right, we have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to you next time. Peace.